They say a word to the wise is sufficient. While you're all here, I want to make it known that next year for 4 o'clock Mass and for 6 o'clock Mass, we're actually going to begin on time. Just FYI. When I say begin, I'm going to stay right here and do the intentions at 4 and at 6. So, anyway, every year around this time, actually it's next Saturday, graduates of our university will gather under the oaks in front of West Door, surrounded by their family and their friends. After all the speeches would have been given, after every graduate walks across the stage to receive his or her diploma, then everyone is seated and calm, and our president, Leo Lambert, will get up to give his farewell address to the graduates. He will remind them of that same location where they are sitting now, 4 years prior, for freshman convocation, at which time they received a small little acorn. And he'll remind them how that acorn has grown in their 4 years, symbolically. How many professors and staff have touched their lives. How much knowledge and wisdom they have acquired. How many new friends and acquaintances they have made. And then he will send them off in hopes that they will make a difference in our world. Our gospel today is Jesus' farewell address to his disciples. The scene is the Last Supper, the Passover of Jesus with his disciples. Judas Iscariot would have already done his deed and left the upper room. Jesus would have already passed around the bread now made his body, and passed around the cup now made his blood. He would have already gotten on his hands and knees like a slave or servant and washed his disciples' feet. And then he gives them these famous words: "As I leave you, and as you go out, don't let your hearts be troubled." He knows full well they will have troubles. They will be arrested. They will be beaten and tortured. They will be looked down upon. They will be criticized. They will eventually even suffer crucifixion and death themselves. But he says, don't let your hearts be troubled. Even in the midst of all your troubles, you have control. Don't allow your hearts to be troubled. How do we do that? By having faith in Jesus. Having faith that he's with us in all of our difficulties, in all of our stress moments, in all of our wonderful times and good times, in all of the difficult decisions. He's present saying, don't let your hearts be troubled in the midst of your troubles. Have faith in God and faith in me, because in my Father's house there are many dwelling places. To me, that sounds like some futuristic time a ways away. In my Father's house there are many dwelling places, and I will get a room for you. But I think it's not so distant. I think he means now. You've heard of Garrison Keillor of Prairie Home Companion fame. He also wrote a book entitled Lake Wobegon, about a little fictitious town in his home state of Minnesota, settled by Germans or Norwegians, populated by straight-laced Lutherans and straight-laced Catholics. The Catholic Church, in fact, is called Our Lady of Perpetual Responsibility. For Keillor, Lake Wobegon is, quote, the little town that time forgot and the decades cannot improve. But one of his childhood memories, he relates in the book Lake Wobegon, is storm homes. And I'll quote, "I tell you, when I get scared now, one way I have of quieting myself down is to think back when I went into the 7th grade and caught the school bus into town to go to Lake Wobegon High School. On the first day of school, all of the children were given a slip of paper that said, 'Your storm home is blank.' Each child was assigned to someone's home in town, so that in case of blizzard, the child could go there and stay until the weather improved. He says, 'My storm home was in the family called Kruger, an old couple back then who lived in a little green cottage down by the lake. Through the fall, he would fantasize about visiting Mr. and Mrs. Kroger, about going to that special room with his name on it, with all the appointments that were there and decorated just for him. It was his safe place. It made him feel secure and strong if there was a storm.' There never was a storm that year," he says. He never got to visit the Kruger's home. But each one of us, in a way, has a storm home, don't we? It may be a place we go in our minds when we feel stressed or lonely or hurt or troubled. It may be a person we go to speak to dump our worries and concerns on. It may be that little place in our own rooms where we can go and sit, but ultimately, that safe storm home is God. He tells his disciples, "I have a place for you, and it's there someday when you need it, but it's here, right now, every day when you need it." Whenever we are troubled, and God knows we are troubled, we have concerns, we have worries, we have things that bother us, exams, whatever. When we feel the most troubled, we don't have to let our hearts be troubled. We can go to that storm home that is Jesus Christ. Feel his arms around us, telling us it's okay, because it is. With faith,